Hello everyone, my name is Shama. I'm with Girls and Geese. We are super excited today. We have on a very fantastic, legendary guest today that will be doing our first live Q&A in a while. So we're really excited to have her on today. You may know her. Her name is Ffion Davies. She's here to share a little bit of her knowledge with you, and you can ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. If you don't know who she is, you might probably been hiding under a rock. She's been making some big waves recently and all the way from the UK. We're super excited to have you on. Thank you so much for being here today, Ffion.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You
Thanks for
too.
having
You
me.
too. Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, how are you?
Awesome. So, real quick, I gave you a little bit of an intro. You've been making some big waves lately. I mean, you solidified yourself a while back before the pandemic, but you've really been knocking that out of the park. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you. This year I won Gi Worlds and ADCC, and I do jiu-jitsu. I don't know what else to say.
You're so humble. So you became the first person from the UK to ever win ADCC. So you led the way for not only the men but the women, or not only the women but the men as well. That's a huge, phenomenal feat. Tell us a little bit about how that felt.
It was pretty cool. I wasn't really focused on that aspect, but it was like such a nice bonus afterwards to think about. Like it was pretty cool because normally you see someone do it before you and you have like a pathway of how to do it. So it's
Oh,
nice that I could potentially be that for someone else.
absolutely. I think so for sure. And you took your first worlds as a black belt, which is phenomenal this year as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
correct? Yeah. So it's like back to back, boom, boom. You got both of them. So I haven't seen any questions coming through yet. So if you guys have any questions for her, by all means, go ahead, start asking. So that's a heavy weight. So not only, like you said, there was no one before you. What kind of responsibility do you feel comes with that? Or do you feel there's responsibility that comes with that kind of being that trailblazer, being that pioneer?
Um, it's kind of funny to think of it that way, but yeah, I think there is. I think there's a certain, I don't know, a sort of people don't like to say that they're oh like you're a role model or anything like that, and I don't think of myself that way, but I do think it's important to hold myself to a certain standard anyway, regardless. But in particular, when there's potentially young boys and girls, well, girls and also boys too, who could be looking up to you, I think there is a certain way you should hold yourself and a certain way you should sort of I don't know, just make sure you're not doing anything too crazy or disrespectful, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how did you first get, I know you have a background in judo, and
Yeah.
then that was something you trained in as a child mostly, and then a little bit as a teen, and then jujitsu came in. How did jujitsu come into your life, and what was it that kind of made you want to go down that path instead of pursuing judo again? Seriously.
So I judo was never this thing that I picked. My parents put me into it, or they put my brother into it, and then I was the one who was actually interested. And then as soon as I was interested, he was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Um, but yeah, like I originally went into MMA, so I wanted to be like Ronda Rousey. I saw her; she was a former judo competitor, like Olympian.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh well, I've always wanted to do striking, but I was never allowed because the
Mm-hmm.
boxing gyms in my area didn't allow women.
Oh,
So I was like,
wow.
this could be an opportunity to like do striking and also utilize my judo. And through that, the coach at the gym said, okay, you have to do groundwork, you have to learn submissions. And I was like, I hate groundwork. I always hated Niwaza in judo,
No.
which is really ironic now. So I got into it through that, and I realized that's where my passion was. It was so similar to judo, but then you could do everything. It was like judo without limits. So that was really cool.
Awesome. So, do you get nervous going into these big competitions or any competitions? Do you still get the nerves, or is that something that
Oh
you've
my
kind
God.
of?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe anyone who says they don't get nervous. I don't believe them unless you're a sociopath. Like, okay, but
Which there might be a few.
yeah, I get really nervous, but I think I'm just used to how to handle myself when I'm nervous. I'm just kind of used to the feeling now. I expect the shits and everything, so.
I have to go to the
We've
bathroom
seen
every
the
5
toilet
minutes.
toilets, we all know.
Yes. So what advice would you give to somebody who still like maybe has like almost debilitating anxiety, or what are some tips that kind of help you?
I always think of it as like competing is practice. And I know not everyone can afford to do like a million competitions or anything like that, but it's not the same as in the gym. And I know people like to say it's the same as in the gym, but people are watching, and that's kind of it. But like I don't agree. I think you have to practice competing to become a good competitor, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not always a reflection of how good you are, how you do in tournaments. Like it can be like a general sort of barometer for it. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think that certain people are better handling their anxiety, and that can come through experience. And I think there's something empowering about that as well. If you know that if you keep practicing at it, if you get used to how to handle your nerves, and everyone has different ways of doing it. Initially, my way of handling it is different at each tournament. Sometimes I'm
Mm-hmm.
overhyped and need to calm myself down, and other times I'm like really numb and I'm not able to like pump myself up, so I have to then really like blast music and jump up and down a lot.
Get you going.
So you can kind of tell which way I'm feeling depending on what I'm doing.
So that goes into the next question. Is there anything that you do for mental preparation? I know some people do like visualization, walking through various mental exercises. Is there anything that you do that works for you to mentally prepare you for these tournaments?
I never realized I was doing like mental techniques until I actually listened to a podcast and hear someone talking about it. And I was like, oh, that's just something I just do anyway. And it would be like I'd
Uh-huh.
listen to music and sort of like imagine myself competing. I put on like like really exciting music and imagine scenarios. It wasn't like like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I was imagining scenarios where I won, of course. But like I would just do that anyway. And I used to do that when I was really young, but I used to imagine like Dragon Ball Z characters, which is quite embarrassing. But like I would do stuff like that all the time. And then I listened on a podcast with, I can't remember who it was, but someone was literally saying, yeah, like listen to music and visualize. And I was like, I kind of do that anyway.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
but also like I'll like I like separate like a person. That's really cheesy.
No, go
But
for
like
it. Come on. It's
who
great.
goes and competes on the mat is like a different me to who I am day to day. Because day to day I am very awkward, and when you're competing, you kind of can't be that way. I don't know, like well, you can, but I definitely am
Awkward
actually.
is awesome.
Um, but you come into like it's always like a different person, and it's like sort of
Yeah.
nice to separate the person who's on the mat from me day to day,
The
and
beast
that
from the
helps.
beauty. Oh, that's awesome. So, talk about what kind of hardships have you faced that, you don't have to share everything, but what kind of hardships have you faced in
Trauma.
jiu-jitsu? We're not asking for the gossip here. What hardships have you faced in jiu-jitsu, and what's kind of helped you overcome them?
Well, I've had a lot of losses. I think one that was really tough for me to swallow because um, I don't know. I had such a good run up that year. It was my first year at black belt. It was 2019. Yeah, 2019.
Hmm.
And I won Euros, Pans, and Brazil Nationals, and then it was like Flo were hyping it up a lot. And it was my first year, and I was very excited, and I was like, wow, this is really intense. Like people were like, "Oh, she's gonna do the Grand Slam." Like when you win all the tournaments as well as Worlds, it's the Grand
Hmm.
Slam. And I felt like a lot of pressure, and then I lost. Worlds I ended up getting bronze, and there was like
Hmm.
this big hype train behind me, and it was I felt really embarrassed that I hadn't lived up to
Oh.
it, and then I felt like people kind of not wrote me off. That's a bit dramatic, but afterwards I felt like people were like, "Oh, see, like it was all hype sort of thing." There was that sort of attitude around it, which was like oh, kind of true. Um, so that was really hard, but I think it was also really helpful to sort of learn how to take losses and sort of, they bounce off you a bit, but they bounce off me a bit more now. I don't take winning to heart so much or losing to heart as much. It's like you kind of go up and down, and that's just the way it is now.
That's awesome. I think it's important to be able to kind of process those losses,
Yeah.
a lot for sure.
It
You can
feels
learn
like
a
when you
lot
get
from them
dumped.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
And you can go, oh, that was really stupid that I did that there.
yeah,
What can I do
yeah.
differently next time? So what, I mean, you're known for quite a few things. What is your go-to now? What's one of your favorites?
Like techniques or
Submissions, yeah, submissions,
oh,
finishes.
I love a classic armbar. I do love a class, but I really like a Taraka platter. But I can't fucking do them in competition. I try.
There,
It's not working. I do it a lot in the gym, but then I don't know. I've not really hit it in tournaments. I never get rear naked chokes ever in the gym, but in a tournament for some reason they work. Like I've had people in fully locked rear naked chokes in the gym, and they're just not tapping. I'm like, I have the worst squeeze, but it seems to be my most high percentage submission for some reason in tournaments. Then
well, I know you have a judo background, so I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but someone asked guard pull or takedown.
I actually opt to pull guard more in the gym.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually love guard. Like I love top, and I mostly play top for a long time. But I love
Hmm.
playing guards. I don't know. And also my division, everyone pulls guards. So it's like a race to the bottom. So it makes more sense to
Yes.
double pull and then come up than it is to stay standing for the takedown. Unless they want to wrestle, then obviously I'm happy to. But really, it's not really so often you get to do that now.
Yeah, I know it is a race to who can go first, who can pull guard
Yeah,
first.
on the rascal.
So the next question I have is any tips on recovering guard? They're not a guard player, so they're asking for some tips.
That's very general. Um, I don't know. Frame. Frame. Shrimp. Away. It really depends on what's happening. You know, like it's like a specific scenario usually. But in general, for attention, I think trying not to use your arms so much. I think a lot of people
Hmm.
will like latch onto grips and they won't let go, and then someone's gone around your legs and they're still holding the collar grip. Like please, like learning when to use your pulling, like pulling the collar, and
Uh-huh.
learning when to stop and frame. Like that timing is important. I think that's a big help. I think some people keep pulling when they've already got their guard
Hmm.
past screen, and that's a bit slow there. That gap. So.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, take me back. When did you start training? You got your black belt in 5 years. Is that correct? That's what
Yeah,
I heard?
yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So when
Thank you.
did you start training or jiu-jitsu? Because you've been a black belt for
Um,
3 years, 4 years now?
yeah, 4 years now. Christ. Um, it's 9 years November. I know I started in November because it's like the day
So
after
take
Halloween.
me back to what was jiu-jitsu like in Wales back in 9 years ago?
Um, I mean, there was a lot of people. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu in Wales comparatively to how big the country is.
Hmm.
But it's not the same level as that you'd have in the US. But there are like shockingly that like some of the best people in the UK are from Swansea. Like really
Awesome.
like Ash Williams. He also went to ADCC as well.
Hmm.
He's from Swansea. Like, but we've trained at the same gym. I sat in the same gym that he co-owns now, which is
Hmm.
pretty crazy. And then like a few people in the area. Another guy from Port Talbot, which is like a town next to the town I grew up in, also qualified for ADCC before. So we've got like randomly a lot of very good people in Wales. Um, but yeah, it's still a small, it's a small place. So I feel like people
Well,
gravitate to bigger cities in general.
yeah. What is it like for the women's scene? Were there a lot of women when you were coming up and you were coming back? Because you were coming back in as a teen or late teen into your
I
20s?
was 18, almost 19.
To your
Yeah.
18. So was there, when you walked into the gym, were there any other women
There
then?
was one girl, Ashley, and she's still training now. She's a black belt. She's very good. She started from like a little kid. When they didn't even have kids classes, she was sort of
Uh-huh.
there. And she's like 2 years younger than me, so she was there. So that was cool. And also, like, I didn't have an issue walking into a gym as like one of the few women because I'd done it my
Uh-huh.
whole life as a kid in judo. I've always gravitated towards male dominated sports for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that says about me. Um, but I just didn't really find it like difficult. I was used to like I used to be on the rugby team with the boys, and then got to a certain age and I wasn't allowed on the team because obviously boobs. Um, but yeah, like I'm just used to it. So I never had that appreciation for like women's only classes and stuff. I always thought there wasn't a need until I saw girls who would never have joined come in because of it. And then I realized, okay, like obviously this doesn't apply to me, but there are people who this really does apply for.
Hmm. What was it that kind of made you change? Was it when you started teaching, you started seeing the more need
Yeah,
for it?
I always thought, oh, you don't need women only classes. Like people who like it will like it, and people who don't. Really, really narrow-minded sort of way of thinking, because
Uh-huh.
I just always grown up with it, and I guess that's what some other guys would sort of say, and I would just repeat. And I was very much a bit of a pick-me girl, back then.
Hmm.
I think we all had our days. And then I started the class. And I was like, fine, I'll start it because I do want female training partners, for the God's sake. Like, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And like literally loads of the girls who started in that class with me still train. A bunch of them are purple belts now, and they only started because there was a women's only class.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of the girls who were like the girlfriends of some of the guys who trained.
Yeah.
And then they were integrated into the mixed classes, but they were like, I was really put off by a group of men who act kind of macho. It is really like when you see someone's perspective, you're like, yeah, that is really intimidating. I only didn't experience it because I was a child,
Yeah.
and then you reflect back on certain ways things were done as a child. Like I got told to not do full press ups because it would give me breast cancer, and the most
That's
ridiculous, And
ridiculous.
then you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty fucked up actually.
That's ridiculous.
Women only classes are a good idea.
No, that's that's really awesome though. As an instructor, you were able to kind of see that, you know. So, I mean, I'm curious then to get your perspective. What do you think is the biggest development in terms of women competition, and like our presence that you've seen, and what are some remaining challenges that you think we need to address? So, like, what are some of the big obstacles you see that we've overcome as women in this sport?
I think the growth in numbers, like it's the opposite. There's a huge growth in numbers because so many women into jiu-jitsu now, which is really cool. And it's always been a lot more girls training jiu-jitsu than in judo, from what I've noticed. There are more girls in general. But I think now it's getting to a point where it's up to organizations to sort of treat it with equality, which we're not really seeing. People aren't willing to take the next step and take the risk because we're in a loop at the moment. I feel like there's this constant circle with certain organizations. I do think others are doing a great job. I know IBJF gets slated, but they did a
Hmm.
Grand Prix with equal pay that has
Which is
specifically said
amazing.
that, which was amazing, and it did really well, and everyone watched it. And as soon as the organization treats it equally, as an Olympic sport would, right, you have to showcase the men and women's equally.
Hmm.
Therefore people watch it, right? If you can't see yourself doing it, how can you imagine, how can you, what do you strive for if you can't see yourself doing it as like a young girl? Like you're not going to go into a sport where you see no women or very few women.
Hmm.
um so it's, and then with the Grand Prix you saw a lot of people getting behind that and watching it, and men watch it too. Like I don't know why we act like men aren't capable of watching women's jiu-jitsu. Plenty of men I talked to said they watch it and they don't think that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, it'd be nice to see a lot more shows take that step. I'd like to see ADCC add more divisions. I think one division isn't enough. I think two more should be the goal, as well as an absolute, and with the makings of a super fight. I think that's how it should be because it's grown a lot more. I think just adding one division, I don't think that's enough. I think there should be more. I think it's more than fair to ask for that.
Hmm.
And another thing people don't realize, at Gi Worlds with the IBJJF, again, everyone likes to shit on the IBJJF, but I got paid based on numbers in my division, not based on gender.
Uh,
ADCC, I got paid by my gender, right? So that's what I'll say. I got paid more at Gi Worlds.
yeah. I mean, we've come a long way for sure, but yeah, there's definitely. I mean, we've come a long way from being grouped in as kind of the sideshow attraction, like the kids. Oh, just put the women with the kids. We don't know what to do with them. We'll just put their division with the kids, right? So we've come a long way, but yes, there's a huge, phenomenal, big steps that can be taken to kind of push us forward to that next level. Something that I found really interesting, and it was posted after you won the Worlds, I believe, and you're like, you were, it was a statement saying, you know, oh, I finally believe I can do it. And I
Yeah.
think that really hit home with me, and I know it hit home with a lot of people because we look up to women like yourself as that, wow, that's what a champion is. And here you are saying, I finally believe I can do it. And that was so touching and real, I think, for so many of us, because we are those girls that think, oh, maybe I can do it, you know, and you, so that's pretty amazing. Tell us about, do you have any, like, going kind of back to the mental, you know, a lot of us have doubt, right, in what we're capable of. What advice do you have for somebody that might have that doubt in that they have any kind of worth or can accomplish anything in this sport or in life, period?
Like the way it was for me was just I just got sort of sick of not believing in myself. Sounds really weird, but it's really tiring. Like it's tiring to sort of hate yourself. If we're being
It's a
frank,
full-time job.
it's exhausting. Like it really is exhausting.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. It's not as simple as that. Like, but I just really didn't want to do it anymore. And obviously, I'd be given feedback and evidence when I would compete. And I did have a sort of delusion when I compete, thinking I'd lose, and I'd be like, but I really think I am the best. Like deep down, literally, like deep down, for some reason, I have this very deluded viewpoint where I think I can be, that I am the best, really. And I just, even though I'm not maybe not most skillful right now, or whatever it is, I do think I can be the best, or I know it's possible. So there was that sort of I don't know, just deciding to like, what's the worst thing to happen if you believe in yourself? Dream, you lose. Well, you kind of thought you were going to lose anyway. So taking a chance on yourself is I think it's easy to sort of be like, oh, I'm going to lose anyway. And it's very easy. And it's kind of like, you can fall back on it. Well, I never believed I was going to do it anyway. Dream, like, it wasn't really possible anyway. And it's easy to do that. I think it's very difficult to choose to sort of believe in yourself. So I just was like, you know what, I'm sick of my own shit, to be honest. And well, I'll give it a go. So giving myself a bit of a go. And to be fair, it was more the people I had around me as well would correct me every time. I'd be like, oh, I hope I can win. They go, no, you're going to win. And I was like, okay, Americans are fucking positive, aren't they? Because there is, I feel like people in the UK are very self-deprecating. It's very like embarrassing to believe in yourself. I think people get embarrassed to be like, oh no, I can win. Like people are really embarrassed to believe in themselves. And also like they kind of don't like when they see you believe in yourself. Shireen, and not everyone, but you there's kind of that like little like, ooh, that's a bit cringe. And I totally get it. Like I am a bit like that sometimes. So being in America was quite nice because everyone was like, I believe, and I was like, okay.
Yes, in America, everybody believes.
They do, they really do. And I was like, what's happening? Like, what is going on? But I was like, you know what, I'm going to embrace this. And it was very helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's really interesting because I think it's something that not only, I mean, I think it's something as a species we struggle with, but I think it's definitely something that women struggle with more. You know, American, British, Australian, Japan, you know, I think it's something that we all kind of struggle with just a little bit more. And I'm sure there's a lot of cultural standards that go along with that, you know. But like I said, that was just so touching, and I was like, oh, that's such a sweet like thing to like hear, you know, somebody like you to say. I think we all needed to hear that a little bit, you know, that okay, good. I'm not the only one.
So I'm glad something understandable came out of my
the one articulate phrase.
The only thing anyone did, like, okay,
nice. So what are some of your goals going forward? What are we gonna, I mean, you've knocked down some big mountains, you've conquered some big ones. What's next?
I'm hoping to fight on one in the new year. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm going to say it. I'm hoping to fight on one in the new year, or I think who's number one potentially as well, hopefully. So do some more shows. And yeah, like the same, you know, I want to do Gi Worlds again and try and win it again, because for me it was always like, if I can win it once, I'll be happy. But now I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't put such limitations on myself and branch out a little bit. And I'd like to try and medal at an absolute again. A Gi Worlds absolute is like a really big goal of mine, to get on the podium. Obviously, I'd love to be like I want to win, but realistically, I'm a lightweight. If I get on the podium, that's pretty cool. So that would be a really big goal of mine, just to hop on that. If I could imagine I would absolutely get a little ring. It's probably the only ring I'll ever get in my life. So
You and
just
me
that,
both,
but
sister.
we'll see.
No, that's awesome. Well, good. So what I I'm curious, what advice have there ever been points in your journey that you've been like, I just don't know if this is for me. What am I doing? Why am I spending so much time doing this? I'm done. Have you ever felt like you've wanted to kind of give up? And if so, do you have any advice? Or if not, do you have any advice for somebody who may be struggling with, I don't know if I want to do this anymore?
I think the only time I've like seriously felt that way, I think I've was had days where I'm like, I hate this sport, and I'm like, not really. But it's fun to hate. But I think during COVID, my mental health was very much suffering, as I believe most people's.
Everybody.
Yeah, everyone really. I would say during that time, I was like, guess I'm off to work in holiday now because I have no qualifications. And every time I'd go on the mat, I'd absolutely have no joy. I just went through the
Yeah.
motions. I didn't enjoy it at all because I couldn't see there's no end in sight, especially in Ireland where I was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was no end in sight. There was like literally,
Just
it was
went
like
on.
went from we're going back into another lockdown to everything's lifted out of the blue. There was no warning, so there was no like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like that was never the
Mm-hmm.
case. It was very sudden where everything changed. So it was really hard to sort of stay mentally strong, and I'm definitely not particularly mentally strong, I don't think. So all my everything was probably exacerbated during that time. I think a lot of people sort of descended into a bit of madness there. But yeah, that was the only
Mm-hmm.
time I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with myself anymore. But
How did you kind of get through that? What kind of helped you mentally? I mean, I know it's really hard because it's like it's pretty bleak, right? You're looking at a bleak future at some points in it where like I don't have my source of income, I don't have the mental release, I don't have my social circles. How were you able to kind of get through that knowing there was no end in sight? Or what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe suffering an injury right now or a health issue that's put them out?
so I'm really hesitant to give advice because
Yeah.
honestly, it wasn't like, oh, I got through this really hard. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like mental health goes up and down. And I felt like COVID with depression came together to make
They
a
were friends.
wonderful
Yes.
concoction. And I think when you are in that really low mental state,
Hmm.
it's just kind of getting through it and understanding that it's going to be like this for a while, and then it's going to be down here. Sorry, here's my hand. It's going to be down here, and knowing that like eventually you will kind of get up to like a more stable place, and just kind of like working through it. I just go through the motions of each day, basically just make sure I was getting out of it. That sounds really dramatic, but just making sure I was going through the motions of what I would normally do, as much as I could during COVID. I tried to get into other
Hmm.
hobbies. It was funny. I tried to play piano. Interesting. Really, I have no talent in anything else. But also, like, yeah, this is when my obsession with Taylor Swift really began. Like, I listened to that. She had the two albums come out. I listened to them. It was fantastic. Sing them around the flat, much to my boyfriend's disdain. I'm pretty sure that's what destroyed the relationship. But, but yeah, so that was very helpful. And I've never had a super serious injury. The
Hmm.
worst I had now is that I've torn my MCL. It's not like a full tear or anything. It's
Hmm.
only a part tear. And I've got a timeline, so it's very easy to work through that timeline because I know when I can fully train now. I had tasks, I had PT to do. Um,
Hmm.
I guess keeping yourself as busy as possible, but that's probably not the best advice. You probably should feel your emotion. I don't know.
So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? What has been something that maybe you've gotten that really sticks true to kind of helping you throughout your jiu-jitsu journey?
I think when people say bad stuff about you, to not
Mm-hmm.
take it to heart, but also when people say good stuff about you, to not take it to heart. That sounds really bad. But like, I get more nice things said to me than I do bad things probably, but obviously the bad ones stick out more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's important to not take on either of them too much. Like if criticism's coming from my friends or coaches or whatever, I'll take it on board. But as well as compliments, I'll take it on board from them. But random people being like, "Oh my god, you're the best thing since sliced bread," I think it's important to not let that sort of touch you as well as
Mm-hmm.
negative comments. Maybe that's not the best thing I've ever been told. Oh, another one I really like is actually JT said it. He's just always like, "Be first." And that one's really simple, but like literally just be first. Like in a competition when you're competing in the gym training, just be the first person to initiate anything. And like the person who attacks first, the person who goes for it the most is usually the person who comes out on top. And then if you lose, it's like, well, I went for 100%, I gave my all. So you can't feel too
Mm-hmm.
much regret, right? Like if someone's better than you, they're better than you, and you can sort of take that and you can, but when you
Mm-hmm.
hesitate, I feel like that's when I'm always frustrated afterwards, when I hesitated and I didn't go for it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's easier to take than, no, that's harder to take than when you didn't and you sort of freeze, I think,
Yes. Like a deer in the headlights.
yeah, and you're just like, it happens 100%.
Oh yeah, it absolutely happens. Oh, it was such a pleasure talking with you. You were so down to earth. I'm so happy that we got this opportunity to chat and we got some answers to these people's questions and we got to get to know you a little bit better. It was such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
Abs- you too. You too. I look forward to being able to work together again sometime. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you everybody for tuning in with your questions. I hope you got some great answers, got them all answered for you. And you all have a great time. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.